There are two sides to every story. The National Broadcasting Company presents the vivid drama of life itself. Broadcasting's original program of Mediation, The Court of Human Relations. And now, the man who has familiarized millions of people with the idea of mediation, helped to make it a creative force in American life. A.L. Alexander.
We welcome today's distinguished mediators, who lend dignity and meaning to this hour by virtue of their participation. The famed American novelist, perceptive Fannie Hurst. The noted authority in social ethics and adult education, Dr. Lloyd E. Foster. And that knowing observer of the passing scene whose book, On Being Human, has attracted such wide attention, giving us new insight into some things we need to know, Dr. Ashley Montague. Now, I suppose whether you use the language of the novelist, the sociologist, or the anthropologist, the joy and the failure, the blessings and the disappointments that grow out of the relationships of the family and the home, these form the chief interest of human life. Where there is conflict, and there are so many issues affecting the struggle of a person for a measure of happiness, the obtaining of simple justice is often a difficult, if not exasperating matter. Frustration in any of its varieties has no remedy at law that we know of. Now, the attempt to adjust a dispute through the friendly intervention of impartial persons is called mediation. And you are now about to witness an actual mediation proceeding with both sides, the actual persons involved, agreeing to abide by the decision. Now, this is case number 5189, and here is the complainant.
Mr. Alexander and members of the board, does the fact that a person is married mean that he must lose his identity? What I would like to know is this: isn't a person still a human being even though he's married? I got married 2 years ago because I was in love, because I wanted a family later on and a home, and everything that goes with a normal married life.
And what did you find?
Well, lately, and it's becoming increasingly worse, my wife has become so possessive and jealous that it's affected our home life, our social life, and now even my work. I've tried to discuss it with her, but she seems to have a blind spot on this point. And I feel that perhaps the point of view of a board of third parties could help us settle it.
Well, sir, I think it's important that the board understand just exactly what it is that you do.
Well, I'm a professional model. I work freelance. I do fashion modeling for magazines and for fashion shows, and I do illustration modeling for magazines. And it's important in this field to make personal contacts with different people, both male and female.
And can you tell us just why it is that that's so important?
Well, it's important to establish yourself as a personality in this field so that you will be remembered. Now, to be remembered, people have to know you. They have to know what type of human being you are, what type of person you are. If they don't, they won't remember you. And if they don't remember you, you're dead. And lately, due to the attitude of my wife, well, I've become increasingly troubled.
Well, now, we're going to hear a little more about this situation and just the extent to which you're troubled. But suppose we go on and hear something from the respondent wife.
Well, I'm just as anxious to settle it as my husband is, because it's made us both very unhappy. Now, he says that I'm very jealous and very possessive. And, well, maybe you can call it that, but I married my husband because I loved him, because I wanted a good marriage and I wanted a good kind of life, and I don't think I'm finding it. Now, well, if you went to a party with your husband, say, and you'd no sooner arrived and, well, you're surrounded by about a half a dozen women, and he ignored you and he left you alone to go sit in a corner or to try to keep up with him, you know. I mean, I'm a human being, and I'm his wife, and I don't feel that I'm being possessive and jealous just because I want to be a part of things.
What do you feel is the basis of all this?
Well, it's a need of self-respect on my part, or self-respect on my part, and it's and the need for a little consideration on his.
And you don't think it's jealousy?
No, I don't think it's jealousy. You can call it that if you want to, but I don't think that's what it is.
What do you feel like when you're in a corner at one of these social affairs?
I feel neglected. I feel like a wallflower. I don't know.
Well, now, we address the husband. What happens when you go out with your wife socially?
Well, if we're out socially at a party, if I'm talking to someone, especially a female, well, I can't talk for more than 30 seconds, and I look up and there she is, like she's staking her claim, announcing in no uncertain terms that I belong to her. Now, if I'm talking to a woman and she comes up and she says, "Look out, this man is mine," well, it just kills anything I'm trying to do or say, and I'm embarrassed, and quite often the person I'm talking to is embarrassed.
But I'm your wife. I just come up and say I'm your wife.
Well, she seems to have the peculiar idea that unless I'm with her every minute of the day, or if I don't include her in everything I do or say, or if I exclude her in anything I'm talking about, I'm being unfaithful, and that's what I'd like to get settled.
Well, now, we address the wife. Your husband appears to have the idea that the fact that he's married doesn't prevent him from being an individual.
Of course he's an individual. I am too, I think. But, well, I think that it should be possible for two individuals to blend together and to make something meaningful, to help each other, to build something more than you had before. I don't feel that he is losing his individuality by... I mean, why do you get married except to make something better than what you had?
Is it your feeling that your marriage isn't progressing?
No, it's not progressing at all. It's going way back. I mean, I feel that if it keeps on going like it has been going, that there won't be any more marriage left, that the way we're going, we need something more than we have and more than we're doing right now to keep going, to build something more than we have now.
Well, your husband seems to feel that your idea of being a wife is to be possessive.
I'm not being possessive. I mean, all I've ever tried to do in my life is just to be direct and honest and just be myself. And he calls this being possessive. He says that I want to own him. Well, I don't want to own him. I just want to share things with him. I want to share the people we know and the things we see, and I just want to share a life with him. I don't want to own him.
What is it that you think that some wives do?
Well, I guess there are some women who resort to, I don't know, devices or tricks or to be very feminine or womanly, but I've never been able to do this, and I don't think I could.
And what is your conception of what a real marriage should be?
Well, it's more than what you had when you were single. It's two people, two individuals like my husband, building something that is more than what you had before. It's two mature individuals. We're no longer adolescents.
Do you believe you have to play games?
No, that's what I just said. I don't think you have to, that I have to always be after him at his parties and so on to keep up with him, to keep up with his career. I feel that it's more than this, that he should have more self-respect for me, self-respect for himself. He should have more consideration for me. And I feel that that's what it is. It's just a matter of a little bit of consideration.
Well, we address the husband. Is it your feeling, sir, that it's necessary for you, because you're married, to cut yourself off from women?
No, I don't. I think just because I'm married doesn't mean that I should have to. I've never had to chase women, and I don't chase women. And I think that just because I'm married, I shouldn't have to turn around and run the other way when I see one coming.
What do you think of women?
Well, I think they're wonderful, and I enjoy them. And just because I'm married, I shouldn't have to cut off all contact with them.
Well, prior to the time you were married, didn't you get some idea as to your wife's personality and temperament and disposition and nature? Didn't you know what she was like?
Well, before we were married, we weren't living together, and I didn't have to account to her, and our relationship was very pleasant. And I would call her and ask to see her, and she was pleased about it, and so was I. But it's been since that we have gotten married and tried to establish a married life, and I've been trying to get ahead in my career and make contacts, that she's developed this feeling of possessiveness, like she wants to shackle me or something, and that she doesn't want me to be a natural, relaxed human being that I feel it's necessary for me to be.
Does she want you to call her up all the time?
Yes, she does. She wants me to check in.
I don't want him to call me up all the time or check in. I just want him to call me once in a while. I mean, if I'm sitting at home and I don't know what time he's coming in, I don't know if he's coming home at midnight or at 5 o'clock, or I never know when he's coming home. If I'm sitting at home waiting, you know, is it too much to ask that he just simply call me once in a while and say, honey, I'm late, you know, I got tied up at my job.
I see her every night. I sleep with her every night, and I see her every morning. I don't think I should have to call in every 5 minutes and report to her.
But I don't ask you to call in every 5 minutes. I just ask you to call in, you know, once a day.
Well, just because you're married, you know, she's not my mother, and I'm not a child, and I shouldn't have to report to her like she's a top sergeant. You know, she should trust me.
I trust him, but I don't trust the women.
Dr. Montague?
Well, I think here is really an interesting case of misunderstanding, which is quite common on the part, it seems to me, of the husband, who I would suggest doesn't really understand that women are very different from men. I think, sir, that you are making the common error of assuming in a democratic equalitarian society that men and women are equal and therefore they have the same needs, and what's good for the one should be good for the other. On the other hand, women are very different from men, and I think that it is the function of a man as a husband to learn to understand this and to minister to those very important and essential needs which women have. And one of them is the need to be recognized as a person in one's own right, the need to be recognized also as the one that one chose to be one's wife, and to give all those little evidences of consideration at a party, at a cocktail party, at a dinner, where in the conversation that you may be having with a totally different crowd from that in which your wife may be, to invite her participation in, to give her the recognition that she needs. Just these little signs which will tell her that you are with her while you are also with these other people.
You're talking about appreciation.
Indeed.
Well, I have you the feeling then that the point of view of the wife is not possessive or jealous, that she's lacking in this recognition, and therefore she has a legitimate concern and an anxiety.
Yes, I think she has a legitimate anxiety which her husband should do everything in his power to allay. And I think it quite reasonable and only ordinary civil behavior, even to a stranger, if one is not coming home at the time one is expected home, to call and say that one will be delayed and reassure the anxieties of one's spouse.
Ms. Hurst?
Well, I would go along to a certain degree with you, sir, but I can't help but feel this young woman knew she was marrying a man whose demands were going to be pretty much along these lines, didn't you?
Yes.
I don't quite understand, I will say, just why you need to attend these parties attended by lovely women in order to enhance your own professional status. But
Well, we attend parties together because, through our friends, we go to parties because we're invited,
This is
because we both
outside
want to
your
go.
profession.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Well, now, you are a personable young woman. I must say that I think you are both possessive and jealous without probably realizing it. You're married to an attractive man. It should work both ways. But it would seem to me that you would be in a position, in view of the self-respect you describe, to go on your own. Your marriage apparently is fundamentally sound. This young man has not been unfaithful, as I understand it. He is home at night. He does his work during the day, and apparently he is taking you with him on these social occasions. Well, now, if you choose to sit back and feel forgotten and feel forlorn, that's going to do a great deal toward making that situation and creating it. You are sufficiently personable unto yourself, I think, without the possessive reach, this is my man, he belongs to me, which is frustrating to a man. if you were a little mouse and had no personality, which you are not, I could understand it. But I don't agree for a moment that you two people need to live the kind of lives you're living. I think your husband is thoroughly entitled, except in view of the amenities that you mentioned, such as a few telephone calls during the day. I think she's entitled to those small amenities, and she's asking very little.
Well, it's not that I never call her. It's just that she wants me to call her several times a day, and sometimes I'm working in such a spot that it's very difficult for me to call.
But I don't want you to call me several times a day.
You do.
You never call me.
I do call you.
Well, compromise on a few times a day, even if it's a little difficult for you. These are such trifling things that are wrecking you two people. It seems to me that it is up to this young woman to change her attitude and to lift her face and to enjoy the fact that she's married to a man with whom she is in love, and also to the man, certainly, to make the few concessions, and they are few, that she's asking.
I'm willing to make these concessions, and I want her to be an individual, too. And I don't quite understand how you think that I'm jealous of her. At least I try not to be.
Oh, I haven't touched on that at all. That isn't what I intended at all. I didn't even intimate that you were.
Well, I think that I would tend to disagree with Miss Hurst in the matter of this young woman having to make any adjustment of any kind. The facts before us, as I see them, are that the husband has not recognized the needs of his wife, and he hasn't done so as millions of men haven't done so, who have lived all their lives, 50 or more years with the same woman. This is a common disorder in our society. Women are totally different creatures from men, and I think it's enormously important that men recognize this and understand that they have needs which must be satisfied, which must be met if the wife is to be kept happy and the husband kept happy by her in return.
I think these sex differentiations have been largely overemphasized. We are living in a period where the trends are carrying women into different channels of thought. Now, this young woman, for me, is a normal, alert, intelligent young woman. I've heard the way she speaks. I can't think of her just because women expect the amenities that she's not getting, when they're such superficial amenities, completely frustrating her. And she says herself that she's jealous of these women. She trusts her husband, but she doesn't trust the women. Well, I think that she is, I repeat it, both possessive and jealous, and that she is jeopardizing this marriage even more than the husband.
Well, I don't feel that I am, because, well, if you take the example of the party, I don't come up to him, like he says, and I put my stamp on him, that he has said several times, should I wear a sign that says, I am married? I mean, I don't do this. All I ask is to be with him, not to be sent away from him, not to be, well, I mean, maybe he introduces me, he says, well, this is my wife, and then sends me away from him.
How do you mean, sends you away?
Well, I mean, he sort of gets involved with other people, and he ignores me.
But you're
I'm
a
not
member
even
of a
there.
group at that point, aren't you? You're a member of a group where you are free to join in the conversation, to participate. He hasn't literally said, please go away.
Yes, but you're not a member of a group unless you're given some sign, and this is just the point. You, Miss Hurst, have said that these little superficial demonstrations in the age in which we are living don't amount to much. What is love if it is not demonstrative? You can't say, I love you, and let it go at that. You've got to do something about it. The meaning of any word is the action it produces. And if you love a person, you've jolly well got to do something about it. And if you don't,
I
you
married
don't.
her because I loved her.
Yes, but that's not enough. I mean, millions of people have married each other because they thought
He's
they
faithful
knew
to
what
this,
love was.
to this woman. It isn't
Yes,
that
but
he isn't faithful
faithful
to
in
her.
his own way. It's not enough to be faithful in this conventional way. It's enormously
She's so
important.
concerned about when we go to parties. If you go to a party, it seems to me, you go to talk to other people. Now, as I said, we live together, we see each other all the time, and it seems silly to me to go to a party when you have a lot of friends from both of us, and to go off together in a corner and talk to no one but each other. Now, to me, this is not why you go to a party. You're going to talk to other people.
I'm not asking you to just go and talk to me, to take me away with you.
What are you asking?
Well, I want to be included. I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm being rejected, being pushed out of the picture.
I don't
I
try
just
to
want to be a
push you
part
out.
of it. I think you do, in a way.
Mr. Alexander, I should like to disagree with my distinguished colleagues here. One seems to place the blame upon the husband and the other upon the wife. It's apparent to me that there are signs of immaturity on the part of each. And the very core of immaturity is self-centeredness, concern about oneself, getting something for oneself. And I believe that this relationship can be greatly improved if the husband, on his part, is more considerate toward the wife, and she, on the other hand, is less demanding of him. For effective marriage relationships come out of a concession on the part of each. They do something together. They consider each other. And it seems to me that there's a dual fault here that must be recognized and can be resolved. And I believe that out of this very discussion and sharing together that there will come this improvement, because it's being illustrated and dramatized for these very attractive young people.
Well, we address the wife. Is it primarily what you want to have a little recognition, a little appreciation?
Yes, I believe so.
Do you want to be introduced as his wife?
I most certainly do, yes.
How else do I introduce you? I mean, if we're at a party and I introduce you, what else can I do? Can I just ignore the person I'm talking to then and just talk to you? I mean, you have a perfect right to enter into any conversation.
Once in a while, it would make me feel good if my husband would sort of take me in his arms, publicly, not just at home. I don't know, this makes me feel good.
Well, there's a time and place for everything.
Well,
Yes.
I don't think many women, my dear, would feel just as negative about a public manifestation such as that. So I don't know how your husband is going to judge. I think most women would shrink from it. That kind of thing is for the privacy of the
But
home.
most women is a generalization, and we're not dealing with generalizations, we're dealing with individuals, Miss Hurst.
But you're
And here-
generalizing, my dear sir. You say that women, you have spoken en masse. You say that women are different than men, and women
I repeat that all women are different from all men, definitely.
Well, that seems fairly fundamental. Now, I think it's quite clear that this young woman has used this as a symbol. What she needs is more recognition and a little more appreciation. She feels as if she's just lost, as if she's not given the attention that she wants. And surely what we want to do here is not only, as we've said on many occasions, describe the symptoms involved, but if possible bring about some adjustment, and it's only through the exchange of opinion that we find truth, and that's why we have three mediators. Now, I think all three mediators, with Miss Hurst most pointedly and emphatically, agree that when a person marries, he or she must take into consideration, to put it very bluntly, just what they're getting if a certain type of person was desired. Realize that accordingly some price in the way of sacrifice must be made, and that's been pointed out here. Now, on the other hand, according to this board, it's a two-way street. Certainly Dr. Foster has pointed out that adjustments must be made both ways. And surely if good faith exists, it is clear that considerably more appreciation would go a long way in establishing the sense of confidence that obviously is so needed. As we express our thanks to our mediators and bring today's session to a close, may the hope be expressed as well that all resentment will be withdrawn and that those in conflict will see the wisdom of compliance. You know, it is the custom on these programs to conclude, time permitting, and we do have a moment or so at this time, to conclude with some little inspirational message. And the idea is to point up what had been said in a more general way in the program proper, and many followers through the years, indeed since the beginnings of radio, have felt it to be a pleasant and gracious way of bringing the program to a natural conclusion. Now, following each broadcast, it may interest you to know that we receive many hundreds of requests for this little message that may strike a responsive chord, and you know it would be a matter of actual desperation to fulfill the accumulated tens of thousands of requests. I say accumulated because it's every day and on so many different themes. And perhaps you might like to know that so many of these little sayings that condense life's essential principles into a form easily impressed upon the memory are contained in my published collection, Poems That Touch the Heart. And now, as we conclude today's program, it occurs to us that there can be no successful relationship in any aspect of life, whether it be husband or wife, or any other relationship, unless the element of true friendship is involved, the element of sharing. Sorrows shared are sorrows halved. Joys shared are joys doubled.